Imagine one careless, tossed off line, "Let's hurry up, I've got more important things to do," not only derailing a slow morning in court, but cracking open the life of someone who was sure the rules were for other people. The municipal courtroom breathes its usual early hour sounds. Low conversations roll under the high ceiling, more murmur than words. Old lacquered benches complain softly when people shift. Somewhere near the back, a heavy door sighs on its hinges, letting in a brief gust of cold Rhode Island air and the smell of wet pavement. The clerk turns pages, the dry rustle punctuates the hum. At the center of it, Judge Caprio's voice is warm but firm, guiding one minor case after another. Then the next defendant is called. He looks too young and too sure of himself to fit the tired wooden room. Mid-20s, sharp haircut, clean sneakers that have never met a double shift. Phone still lit in his hand, hands in his pockets until he reaches the front. He doesn't glance at the judge first, he scans the gallery, as if weighing everyone and finding them light. The charge is simple: improper parking and a late payment on the ticket. On paper, it's the kind of case that should be over in minutes. But under his name, in neat type, is a note that this is a repeat offense. The system has quietly doubled the fine. Before Caprio even addresses him, the young man leans toward the officer beside him and lets the sentence slip, low but clear enough to travel. "Let's make it quick. Dad said this is just a formality." The officer's jaw tightens. The microphones catch it. The gallery hears every word. A ripple moves through the benches, soft scoffs, breath sucked in, someone whispering, "Whose kid is this?" Another answers under their breath, "You can tell he belongs to somebody." Judge Caprio doesn't react with a lecture. He simply lifts his eyes from the file and looks at the young man for a heartbeat longer than usual. No anger. Just a kind of patient curiosity that, in this room, is more dangerous than shouting. "Sir," he says evenly, "state your name." "Aaron Blake," the young man replies, straightening. Then, almost as an afterthought, "My father is Robert Blake." That name hangs in the air. Half the room knows it, high-profile defense attorney, the kind who never loses and never has time. In Aaron's hand is a thick folder, the wrong kind for a parking ticket, hard cover, clipped edges, tab dividers. When he shifts his grip, a title flashes on the side, "Blake vs. State of Rhode Island." Not his case. His father's. On the second row, an older woman in a modest coat has not taken her eyes off him since he walked in. Deep lines mark her face, but her gaze is steady. When Aaron's glance schemes past her, it falters, his posture stiffens for a split second, and he looks away quickly, down at the floor, then up at the clock as if suddenly in a hurry. Caprio notices all of it, the folder, the flinch, the way arrogance and unease coexist in the same frame. "Mr. Blake," the judge says, voice calm, "this may be a small matter on paper. But small things have a way of revealing big truths." The benches creak as people lean in. The paperwork says, "Parking violation." The room, listening now, senses something else entirely. This is about to turn into a trial of much more than a ticket. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Judge Caprio leans back slightly, folding his hands as if giving the young man a chance to slow down. "Mr. Blake," he says in that quiet, anchoring tone, "you were in a rush today. Help me understand why." Aaron forces a thin smile, more shield than expression. "My schedule's tight. I just need to get this over with. My time isn't free." A few people in the gallery shift at that. It isn't the words, it's the chill behind them. But then, barely noticeable, his voice falters on the last syllable. The mask slips and snaps back. Caprio notices. "How about something simpler?" the judge continues. "Tell me where you were headed the day of the violation." Aaron taps his thumb on the folder's spine. "Aaron's," he answers too quickly. "Personal things." But the room hears the tension beneath it. The judge tilts his head. "And this folder? It isn't related to your case." Aaron tightens his grip. It's just something I was supposed to drop off. For my father. A rustle passes through the benches. The older woman in the second row exhales softly, the sound almost like recognition. Aaron catches it, he stiffens, avoiding her gaze as if her presence burns. Caprio gestures gently toward her. You seem distracted by the lady behind you. Do you know her? Aaron's jaw moves, but no words come. The woman rises, slow, deliberate, respectful. Your Honor. I'm sorry, but I do know him. Her voice carries the cadence of someone who has spent a lifetime speaking softly and being ignored. Aaron stares at the floor. She continues, I watched this young man many afternoons when he was a boy. His father worked long hours. He was, rarely home. A different murmur fills the gallery, surprise, pity, curiosity. Aaron clenches the folder and blurts, this isn't relevant. Caprio doesn't raise his voice. It might be more relevant than you think. The older woman nods, eyes not leaving Aaron. He was a good kid. Always waiting for someone who never came through the door. She swallows. And I don't think he ever stopped waiting. The judge allows a long silence to settle, a silence that feels like it's testing the honesty in the air. Aaron tries to regain footing. Look, it's not complicated. I parked where I shouldn't have. I paid late. That's all. But something cracks in the sentence. The confidence of earlier is gone, now there's strain around the edges. Caprio studies him closely. You said earlier your father told you this hearing was a formality. He lets the word echo. That's a strange thing for a father to say, unless he expects his son to lean on his name instead of standing on his own. Aaron's breath hitches, just enough for the front row to notice. And then, the judge adds softly, there's the matter of why you were really in a hurry the day of the violation. Aaron's shoulders tense. The older woman sits again, quietly, her expression filled not with judgment but something heavier, disappointment mixed with concern. The gallery feels the shift. This is no longer about the ticket. This is about a young man built from other people's expectations, carrying a weight he has no idea how to name. And Judge Caprio, eyes steady, seems to know they have only begun to uncover it. The tension in the room sharpens when Judge Caprio asks the clerk to replay the parking footage. The screen flickers, and the first still frame freezes the air, Aaron's car wedged at an angle, too far over the painted line. But then something else comes into view, another vehicle pulled in close behind him, almost bumper to bumper. Caprio leans forward. Mr. Blake, did you notice this second car when you parked? Aaron exhales through his nose, as if the question irritates him. I wasn't thinking about it. I just needed a spot. A few older spectators exchange looks. The woman from earlier folds her hands tightly, her eyes tracing the frame with dread rather than blame. The officer approaches the bench. Your Honor, when I arrived, both cars were blocking each other. He couldn't pull out cleanly. But the violation still stands, the zone was clearly marked. Aaron rubs his palms against his jeans, trying to appear composed. I didn't try to cheat anyone. I just didn't see another option. His defensiveness rings differently now, not arrogant, but cornered. Caprio nods slowly. Let's talk about the folder you're holding. Aaron's grip tightens instinctively. These documents, the judge continues carefully, aren't addressed to you. They're addressed to a different division of this court. Why bring them here today? Aaron swallows and tries to mask it as impatience. They're for my father. He wanted me to drop them off. Why today? Caprio asks. Why carry them into this room? The question lands like a pin pulled from a grenade. Aaron's breathing changes, shallow, uneven. It was on the way, he mutters, but the lie is thin as tissue. The older woman rises again, her voice quieter but more resolute. Your Honor, those papers weren't meant for errand running. His father didn't want the boy to see them. Aaron turns toward her, eyes flashing with a mix of fear and anger. Stop. Please. This has nothing to do with you. She shakes her head gently. It has everything to do with you, dear. I've known your family a long time. Caprio watches them, not intruding, just letting the moment settle. The officer shifts uneasily. This is becoming more than procedure. The woman continues, hands trembling slightly. Your father, he isn't the man people think he is. He's brilliant, yes. Fierce. But the pressure he puts on you. She cuts herself short, realizing she's revealing more than she intended. Erin's jaw locks. My father wants what's best for me. She gives a soft, pained sigh. Wanting what's best isn't the same as being present. The gallery goes still. Even the air feels quieter. Judge Caprio steps in gently. Mr. Blake, what exactly are you trying to keep hidden? Erin freezes. No defiance. No smirk. Just a young man trying to hold up a collapsing wall. He tries to redirect. This hearing should be about the ticket. But the judge's tone is kind, not accusatory. Hearings often reveal more than fines. Sometimes they reveal the strain someone carries. Silence pools around them. Caprio nods toward the folder. Those are legal notices, aren't they? Court complaints. Old case reports. Something your father was supposed to disclose. Erin blinks hard, throat tight. They're not mine to talk about. That may be true, Caprio replies. But hiding them isn't helping you. Erin's breath shudders. His hands slip from their tight grip on the folder, fingers trembling just a little. I don't know who I'm supposed to be anymore, he murmurs, voice cracking on the last word. I'm just tired of being someone's project. The remark rolls through the room with the gravity of confession, drawing a visceral reaction, sympathy from some, uncomfortable recognition from others. Caprio studies him quietly, not with judgment, but with the look of someone who has seen this brand of exhaustion before. Nothing in the official violation explains what's unfolding now. It's no longer about parking, or fees, or lateness. It's about a young man standing at the edge of a truth that's been gnawing at him long before this courtroom. And everyone feels it. The real story is just beginning to surface. Judge Caprio rests his hands on the bench, eyes moving toward the folder Erin clutches like a shield. Son, he says quietly, may I see those papers? Erin stiffens. They're not for this case. Before he can tuck the folder away, the older woman in the gallery speaks, her voice soft, but weighted with something final. He has the right to know what's inside, Your Honor. He was never meant to be kept in the dark. A murmur ripples through the room as Caprio opens the folder. The first page alone is enough to drain color from several faces in the gallery. It's a formal complaint, alleging financial misconduct tied to his father's nonprofit fund for elderly residents. The same fund many in this courtroom have relied on. Caprio reads another page. Then another. A long, uneasy breath leaves the room. The accusations are detailed, dates aligned, signatures intact. Erin's voice cracks. These can't be real. Dad built that fund to help people. He told me, he said. But the judge doesn't need to answer. The documents do that themselves. Another sheet surfaces. This one shows that during his mother's final weeks, when she could barely sign her own name, Erin's father authorized major transfers under her signature. A quiet gasp breaks out. Someone whispers, "My God." Erin stares, eyes glassy, his confident posture dissolving inch by inch. He wouldn't do that. He said everything he did was for me. It sounds less like denial and more like a plea to stay in the world he thought he knew. Caprio closes the folder gently, as if it were something fragile. Truth isn't always kind, son. But it doesn't stop being truth. Before anyone can speak, the officer who issued Erin's parking citation steps forward. He hesitates, then clears his throat. Your Honor. I wasn't going to mention this, because it felt out of my lane. He glances at Erin with something close to pity. But his father called the department the day of the violation, demanded we make the incident disappear. We refused. The gallery reacts as though a rope has snapped. Not outrage, something heavier. Recognition. Betrayal. Many here know what it feels like when powerful people twist the rules they themselves helped write. Aaron's shoulders sag. Why didn't he tell me? Why would he hide all this from his own son? The woman steps closer, hands clasped. Because he wanted you to believe he was invincible. He built his world on winning, even if it meant losing you. Caprio watches the young man struggle to breathe through the truth. No accusation leaves the judge's lips. He doesn't need to raise his voice. His silence is sharper than reprimand. Aaron grips the edge of the defendant's stand, knuckles white. His face carries the collapse of something deeper than pride, his entire foundation tilting under the weight of facts he never asked for. And in the heavy stillness of the courtroom, it becomes clear that the parking violation was only the doorway. This moment where the illusion shatters, is the true point of no return. Judge Caprio lets the silence breathe before he speaks again. His voice is steady, unhurried, like someone stitching torn fabric. Aaron, he says, your father's actions are not your sentence. But they cannot be ignored either. The question now is, what do you do with the truth you've learned today? The young man swallows hard. His earlier bravado is gone, what remains is a raw, unarmored version of himself. I don't even know who I am without his shadow, he admits. The words sound foreign to him, as if spoken by someone he's avoided for years. The judge nods knowingly. Most of us spend half our lives trying to outrun someone else's blueprint. He turns to the officer. Tell me again, could the defendant have avoided the parking violation if he'd taken a different route? The officer responds honestly. Yes, Your Honor. There was a clear alternate path. But he looked, rushed. Distracted. A subtle message, this whole case began with a man racing toward an old pattern he didn't understand. Caprio shifts back to Aaron. Your mistakes today aren't crimes of malice. They're echoes of the pressure you've been carrying. The older woman, Mrs. Dalton, steps forward when the judge motions her gently. Her expression is solemn, but not accusatory. When you were little, she says, voice trembling with memory, you used to knock on my door after school because you didn't want to wait alone. You'd sit at my kitchen table, telling me about your drawings. You weren't arrogant. You weren't cold. You were a boy looking for someone to hear him. Aaron tries to respond, but emotion clogs his throat. Mrs. Dalton continues, your father wronged people, including my own family. But I didn't come here to punish you. I came because somebody had to tell you the part he hid. The gallery sits motionless. Not judgment. Recognition. Aaron meets her gaze, really meets it, for the first time since she entered. I'm sorry, he whispers. I didn't know. I thought, he always said he was protecting me. She doesn't smile. But her eyes soften. Protecting isn't the same as sheltering from truth. Judge Caprio interlaces his fingers. Son, the documents in that folder, those aren't just legal records. They are a mirror. And mirrors don't flatter. They reveal. Aaron wipes his face quickly, embarrassed by the vulnerability. What if I'm not strong enough to be different from him? Caprio's tone deepens, taking on that unmistakable warmth that older viewers recognize instantly. Strength isn't about distance from the past. It's about direction. Step 1 is acknowledging you've been living by someone else's script. He glances toward the folder again, as though it were an artifact of a life that needs rewriting. The judge continues, let me ask the officer one more thing. Was there a moment, any moment, where Aaron could have corrected the situation? Yes, the officer says, reflecting honestly. If he'd apologized that day or taken responsibility early on, the violation wouldn't have escalated. The symbolism is unmistakable, one moment of humility could have prevented months of spiraling. Aaron absorbs it like someone tasting truth for the first time, unpleasant, but clarifying. Caprio leans forward slightly. You're not your father's legacy unless you choose to be. The young man lets out a shaky exhale. I want to try, but I don't know where to start. Mrs. Dalton places a hand over her heart. Start by listening to the part of you he ignored. And in that instant, the courtroom feels less like a battleground and more like a crossroads, where a young man stands with the weight of his lineage in one hand and the possibility of a different future in the other. Judge Caprio folds his hands. Good. Then let's finish this the right way. A sense of expectancy sweeps across the room. Everyone understands, the next words he speaks will determine not the penalty, but the path forward. Judge Caprio lets the room settle, palms resting lightly on the bench as though he's weighing something far heavier than a parking violation. Aaron, he begins, I could fine you. I could give you the maximum. But something tells me the number on a receipt isn't what you need. No disappointment in his tone, only clarity, as though he's guiding the young man toward a door he never noticed before. You've been living under a name, Caprio continues, but not under your own convictions. A penalty won't fix that. He pauses. Responsibility might. A ripple runs through the audience, curiosity, anticipation, maybe hope. The judge folds his verdict into something unexpected. I'm dismissing the monetary penalty. Instead, you will volunteer 10 hours at the Senior Community Center on Elmwood Avenue, the same one where Mrs. Dalton serves every week. You'll assist, listen, and learn. Consider it an investment in who you want to become. There's no applause, just a quiet shift, like the whole room exhales at once. Aaron blinks, stunned. You're dismissing the fines? Yes, Caprio replies gently. But not the lesson. The young man steps toward the microphone. For the first time, he isn't performing. He's present. Thank you, he says, voice low but steady. Most people talk at me. You talk to me. He hesitates, then turns toward Mrs. Dalton. And I'm sorry, for everything my family did, and for how I acted today. She nods, not triumphantly, but with the weary grace of someone who's seen too much to gloat. Just show up, she murmurs. That's all any of us can do. The courtroom remains still. No phones, no murmurs, every person is anchored to the moment. Judge Caprio closes the folder on the desk. This court believes in second beginnings. Not because people earn them, but because they learn from them. He looks directly at Aaron, and the tone in his voice shifts, not judicial, almost paternal. Your mother would have wanted you to stand on your own feet. I think today you finally did. The words strike deeper than any reprimand could. Aaron lowers his head, fighting emotion he doesn't hide this time. The judge turns to the gallery. We often assume justice is a hammer. But sometimes it's a compass, pointing someone back to themselves. Papers rustle as the hearing wraps, but no one rushes to leave. Something about the room feels changed, lighter, steadier. Mrs. Dalton waits near the aisle. Aaron approaches her cautiously, unsure if he should speak first. She saves him the trouble. Your mother used to say you had a stubborn heart, she tells him softly. Stubborn hearts can do great things when they're pointed the right way. He breathes in, a deep, shaky breath that sounds like release. I'll be at the center this weekend. Early. I know you will, she replies. As people trickle out, Judge Caprio remains seated, studying the now closed folder as if acknowledging the quiet miracle inside it, one young man realizing he isn't destined to repeat someone else's mistakes. The bailiff dims the lights. The courtroom empties. Only the echo of the judge's final words lingers, words that feel less like a ruling and more like a blessing. Justice isn't about punishment. It's about remembering who we're capable of being. And for the first time in a long while, Aaron walks toward the door not as his father's son, but as a man finally choosing his own direction.